What's up, guys? Big Papa Drock back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. How you doing, guys? I hope that you're doing well. I had an amazing birthday recently, in large part, or pretty much entirely, due to everyone in this community. So to everybody that showed up for those crazy streams, thank you so much. It was so much fun. I truly had a blast. So thanks for coming out, celebrating with me. I had way too many shots and way too many drinks, but it was a good time. And I just wanted to say thank you for supporting the channel so much. So just a blast. But I wanted to do a little bit different video today. You know, I've been thinking a lot recently, and I think a lot of content creators have been thinking a lot recently about, you know, where is Raid at? What's the story of where Raid is at right now? What is the situation? Because I think we can all agree that Raid has gotten a little stale recently. Now, they're obviously looking to release a bunch of new content soon. It hasn't dropped yet at the time of recording this video, but it is on the way. The bigger than Doom Tower, you know, Cintranos or whatever it's called. But for me, that's not enough, because as I look back over the last year, there are so many things that I think Plarium could do to improve this game that for some reason they have either refused to do outright, or just haven't put a team on it to actually make it happen. And I can't for the life of me understand why they don't want to improve the game in these areas, because to me, happy players spend money. Raid is obviously a business. The more people spending, the longer Raid stays alive, the better it is for Plarium. So I've come up with a list of what I consider 10 things that I would love to see them address outside of the upcoming new content. So these are just 10 things that I think would make a major impact on community happiness and community sentiment. Because I think we can all agree this has been probably, over the course of this year, the angriest I have ever seen the majority of the Raid player base. There have been different things that have happened over the years where people have been upset when they took away the chicken, or the free sacred. Remember that? Just different stuff that they've done that has really upset people. But on the whole, this year to me really has felt different. And I want this game to succeed. And obviously, as a content creator, I have a vested interest in this game succeeding. So without further ado, I've got a whole list here on my phone. These are not really in order from 1 to 10, but I will say the first couple are ones I really think are important. And then I'm going to save the most important one for very, very last. That way you guys maybe decide to watch the whole video. But let's start with what I consider to be one of the most important things that Plarium needs to do. And it's a really simple one. It really comes down to balancing champions. What are we doing? I cannot for the life of me understand why Plarium has spent the last 8 or 9 months basically refusing to balance any champion, let alone broken champions like Taurus or Marichka, or champions like Quintus, which are just bad. Like they have almost refused to do, and actually they have refused. They haven't done any balance changes for the last 6, 7, 8 months. And I don't get it. Like, one of the major, in my opinion, the major downsides to Raid is that there's 800 plus champions at this point. There's way too many champs, because 90% of the champions are bad. They're just not good. They're horrible, or they're not usable in the current meta for arena, or they don't have a place in PvE. I think the biggest change that Raid, or one of the biggest changes that Plarium needs to make going forward, is there needs to be between 5 to 10 champions balanced every single month without fail. Assign a team to it, start working on it. It shouldn't take you a year to figure out how to balance these two. And I know you're afraid to do it, Plarium, because you don't want to upset the player base. But at the end of the day, balancing champions is important for keeping the game alive, for keeping it healthy. I would rather not see them release a broken champion, right away. I'd rather see them balance it right away, I guess. But in the instance of these two champions, they've come to completely dominate and overtake all of the PvP in the game for a year now. That's unacceptable. That cannot happen. That cannot happen in a game like this. You have to balance champions, and you have to be proactive about it. Or things like Raglan. Like, obviously, I made a video recently talking about Void champs that need buffs, and there were something like 15, 16 different champions that need real serious help. So this is one of my absolute biggest things that really, really has upset me the last year with Plarium, is there is no excuse. And people say, well, oh, Drock, you know, they're not balancing champions because that doesn't put money in their pockets. And that's sort of true, but it's also sort of false, because think of it like this. If you suddenly have a really good Raglan, you can now do a 10x for the Raglan or 25x. And now people will be incentivized to pull shards and spend money. The more champions you have that are good, the better chance you have of people spending on each individual event, right? You know, it's not rocket science. So this has to change going forward. We have got to do a better job on this. There is no excuse. It is frankly shameful in a gacha game like this that they have left so many I mean, just look at the Banner Lords. So many of these champions are not good. And even when they have done like buffs, they're still bad. Like, they're not good buffs overall. So please, Plarium, I beg of you, do a better job of balancing champions. Please assign a team to it so that it's done consistently, monthly, and do not be afraid to do small nerfs of champions like Taurus and Marichka. I know it won't be popular. I know people will be a little upset, but it will keep the game relevant for longer, because these champions are still insanely broken and need to be balanced. Not nerfed into the ground, but balanced. So that's number one. Number two, you've heard me complain about this a million trillion times at this point. They say they're going to fix it. It shouldn't take this long. Polymorph. Look, I'm not going to go into all the different reasons why Polymorph is bad. I'll just say this. They say they're going to fix this. It shouldn't take 4 or 5 months. That's inexcusable. If you know you have a problem with the game like this, you know it's a massive issue for PvP and for Arena, which is where people spend money on this game. That's why people spend money. In what world does it make sense to wait 5 months to make a simple change to how this works? This is an almost universally reviled mechanic in the game, especially in high-end Arena, which is where it actually matters. And again, where people spend money on the game. And yet it isn't going to get fixed even still for at least another month from when I'm recording this. That's nuts, guys. That's a giant slap in your player base's face, where you acknowledge there's a problem and you take over 5 months to address it. You got to do better. And the other thing too is, even though they've said they're going to fix it, I am very nervous that they're not actually going to address every aspect of why this blessing is so insanely broken. It's not just reducing the ability of it to actually proc, right? Or making it only one champion can use it on your team, or it can only proc once, even if you're throwing out a bunch of debuffs or a bunch of, you know, buff strips, which all of those things should be changed. Those 3 things I just mentioned, those should change for sure. But even still, it is insanely overpowered. It drops your champion's speed to 150, which, by the way, isn't even listed on here. What are we doing? Why is that not listed? It shouldn't do that. It can last up to 2 turns. It's a protected debuff. It drops your turn meter to 0. And oh, by the way, for some reason, it cuts your health in half. It needs more balancing beyond proccing less. 1 turn only, doesn't affect your health. And I know you'll never make it cleansable, but frankly, it should be. But at the very least, please do not make it more than 1 turn. Do not make it drop your health in half. That is so overkill for this skill. I mean, just absolutely bonkers how strong this debuff is still to this point. And frankly, it shouldn't drop your champion speed to 150. Maybe it drops it to 200. Okay, but a 380, 400, 450 CP shouldn't just be at 150 speed. You're dead. You're dead at that point. It's too powerful. Please, when you do fix this, fix it the right way so we never have to have this conversation again. I never want to see a sheep emoji in my chat in live Arena again, assuming this has actually been fixed correctly. And again, I am very worried that it will not be. So that's number 2 on my list. Number 3. Again, this is easy stuff. Look, there have been a lot of polls that have gone around recently from creators like Hell Hades or Shinny or other people, where they're asking what their player base is in terms of length in the game. And what has been shocking is even people like Hell Hades, who tends to cater to newer players most of the time, even his audience now is an audience that has been in Raid for mostly a year, 2 years, 3 years, or more. Why in the world, knowing that, is the market still geared for somebody who just started the game yesterday? Like, look, I'm all for keeping it like this for new people when they do come in, but this is such an easy fix and such an easy win to make this geared as you progress towards your account level. When you're level 100 like me, I should have a chance to get 6-star artifacts in here of epic or legendary level, or maybe even mythic. Maybe you want to keep that in the dungeons, that's fine, but just something, man. Not just an ancient shard. I would love to see the potential to occasionally, once in a blue moon, get a void shard. Just one. Just one. Look, Raid has a real problem, or Plarium has a problem with making the player base happy. This is such an easy thing to change that would result in massive positive sentiment and people being shocked that Plarium would actually do something that is so player friendly. So do it. Do it. It's not hard. This is less than a week of coding. Frankly, I work in software development. I know this isn't hard to do, maybe a couple weeks at most, and yet you'd get so much out of it. And it's been like this from the get-go. Just insane. Such an easy win that they need to take. So please redo the market to reflect the fact that the player base didn't just start playing Raid yesterday, and give us a chance to get a void shard in here once a month or something. It's one void shard or a mythic shard. We'll get to that in a little bit, because certainly the rates for mythic shards are absurd. But okay, that's the next thing here. Now let's go to the Guardian Ring. Now, this was the dupe system that got set up, right? And we were all very excited about the dupe system. And for the most part, it's been, I would say, a relative success. But you know what hasn't been a success? This right here. Why, dude, this is the exact same champion pool from when it was introduced. I think, is it 2 years now? Is it really 2 years? Bro, what are we doing, dude? I know you don't want to give away champions, Plarium. I know that you don't like to give things for free. I'm even shocked that you're giving people a chance to get a free tournament right now. But again, this isn't free, because you have to actually unbind champs to get these. So in what world would you not rotate the champions on offer? They're still insanely overpriced, even though you've seen that I bought them. You know, that's whale Kraken stuff right there. But dude, this should rotate at a minimum every 3 months with different champions. 1 void champion and 5 non-void champions. I know you're going to put the absolute worst voids in there. I'm not stupid, and probably mediocre champions overall. But there's no reason for this not to rotate. This is such an easy win. Again, easy win. Massive positive sentiment towards the community. Keeping people in the game because you are treating them well. Right? Like that's what you got to be doing. You're not going to have a bunch of new people playing Raid at this point. Everyone who's played it is probably going to play it. So you want to keep people around. Well, do stuff like this. This is such an easy win. I don't know why they won't do it. It makes no sense. Like, truly cannot understand the reasoning behind this. And also, again, not hard from a coding perspective at all. All right, let's talk briefly about Arena. I'm going to do an entirely separate video on this, so I'm not going to go into this too deep. But fifth thing that needs to change, Arena. Both Live Arena and Classic Arena need help, guys. They need help. You've resisted doing this for Classic Arena for some reason, but you have got to institute a blind arena here. You have people cheating, you have people boosting, you have people in clans who only attack other clans, and then it doesn't become a free-for-all, and everybody is guilty of that. But this has got to change, and the easiest way to fix this is to make this a blind arena. And even outside of that, the rewards for Arena are so bad. If you finish Gold 5, you only basically ever get 5-star pieces. That's nuts. You got to up those rates to potentially get 6-star artifacts. So number one thing that has to change here, again, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but we have to have a blind arena, guys. Come on. You know what I mean? It's been years of this, and This is not fair to the community. It's not fair to the people that participate in Arena. Fix this stuff. There is no excuse. You know what is wrong. You know how to fix it. Do it. Let's talk briefly Live Arena. I, for the most part, obviously enjoy Live Arena. I think there are things that need to be done from the perspective of adding different modes, adding certain champions that can only be used, stuff like that, allowing people to battle their friends. This is all kind of no-brainer stuff, again, that I'm going to cover in more in depth in a different video. But one of the things that really bothers me about Live Arena is, unless you are a Kraken who is trying to get up the leaderboard right, like me, there is almost no reason to play this mode. If you are a normal player, Quintus is worthless. He's bad. Again, this goes back to balancing champions. He's not very good, because if you're getting Quintus, you have a pretty good account by that point, and he's not going to help you in pretty much anything. So that's a fail. And then on top of that, look, the rewards for this are atrocious. They are so freaking bad. It blows my mind. Let's look at the actual gear sets. They're mediocre at best, but in what world should a gold 4 top 7 Live Arena player every 35 wins, not even every 35 battles, mind you, every 35 wins, be getting 5-star gear in any of this stuff? Come on, man. Come on. We're better than that. All of this needs to be 6-star when you start hitting gold 3 or gold 4. There is no excuse. Again, it's probably still going to have bad stats. Like I did a mythical gear rolling video, and all of like half the gear in there or more was bad stats, even though it was mythic level. There is no excuse for having 5-star gear every 35 wins. That is just absurd. And while we're on it, let's talk about primal quartz. This is something that really bothers me. I don't know if there's another way to earn primal quartz or earn primal shards going forward. I can't remember if that's something that's been discussed, but this is a joke, guys. And I'll tell you why. First off, you're not even guaranteed every 35 wins to get primal quartz. Literally, this is the equivalent of 1 shard, 1.5 shards at most, which is just ridiculous. But you're not even guaranteed to get this. And on top of that, they cap you to a grand total of 4 mythical shards per month. That's a grand total of 48 per year. At that rate, it would take you 4 years to potentially hit your mercy in mythical shards from this alone. And that's assuming you are grinding super hard in Live Arena and getting those 35 wins. Do you know why that's a problem? Aside from the fact that it's insanely greedy? Because in Clan Boss, I can get a shard every single day. I know you guys probably regret that. I bet money that the monetization team of RaidShadowLegends hugely regrets making shards that accessible from Clan Boss when the game started or whatever, or shortly thereafter. But that's the standard that you set. And even then, it's not a lot of shards. Maybe it's 1 ancient shard. Maybe it's a sacred every couple days. Maybe it's a void shard. But think about the rates of getting a champion from this. It's 0.5 percentage point. Now you have double, which is 1 percentage point, right? Chance of getting a mythic champion. But you can't get these shards except from events or spending an absurd amount of money. Again, you're not going to drastically prevent people from spending money if you just show them a little kindness here. This shouldn't be 1 shard. It should be 3. Okay, it shouldn't be capped at 4 shards. It should be capped at 10 to 12 shards, which again is much more in line with what you've already done for Clan Boss. That is more realistic. That is more fair. That it also incentivizes people to play this game mode, which again, theme of the video, keeps them in your ecosystem longer so they spend more money. This is simple business. This has to change. This is like these rewards are horrendously bad. They are shameful. It has to change. There are other things I have with this mode, but I'm not going to cover. This is already going to be a super long video, as you can tell. I've got a lot to talk about here, a lot of axes to grind. But okay, that has to change too. Now let's go to the mythical, not the mythical shop, the Altar of Souls. There's a million things about this that I would probably change that I know never will. But one thing that absolutely should change is, dude, Why can I not buy mythic souls in the shop? What is that? They're characters in the game. Why am I not able to buy them in the shop? Come on, put them in the shop. Make them purchasable. I'm sure you're going to make them cost more because they're mythics. 325 would be ideal, but you'll probably make it 350 or even 400 because we know how Blarium works. But frankly, this is absurd, dude. If you put something in the game, you need to make sure that it is relevant in every area of content that you have already set standards. So I should be able to buy, by saving up, a mythic soul, a 6-star mythic soul, a 4-star mythic soul, whatever, in this shop, just like anything else. Currently, you can't do that, okay? That's an easy fix. Again, please fix that. Super simple. Okay? This is something I think you guys have said you're going to do. We're on, was the 7th now? The 7th thing, guys. If you're still with me, let me know in the comments down below. But this is something I think they have said they're going to fix. But again, why is it taking so long? Clan quests. Half the clan quests for elite and expert aren't even things you would do because they don't work in hard mode dungeons. I know you're going to fix it. I just can't understand why it takes so long. And the thing that I look at is you can't use new content, this huge new content drop that's coming potentially this week, but you can't use that as an excuse to let the game just fester and rot and not fix the things that need to be fixed. From a software development perspective, that is absolute malpractice. And again, I would know. I work in software development. So we got to fix this stuff faster, guys. I know you said you're going to address it, but we shouldn't be waiting until January or February or months or however long it's going to take to change this stuff. So please do institute so that we can actually do clan quests that match up with your hard mode dungeons that were, again, introduced, I think, 6 or 7 months ago now. 6 or 7 months, and this hasn't changed. Come on. Okay, number 8. This is a hot button one. This is a part of the game that I frankly hate. Don't like this whatsoever, but for some reason they've put it in here. It's Hydra Clash, guys. Everybody's favorite game mode. Look, I can't help but laugh because Hydra Clash is one of the dumbest things I think that they have ever created. Like, truly, I think it really is one of the dumbest things Plarium has created. Because I love the fact that you're adding potentially a chance to get this stuff. That's great, cool, awesome. You're getting so little of it every single week that it doesn't really make much of a difference. But the biggest problem I have with Hydra Clash is, number one, people don't even like Hydra as content. Let's just start there. Hydra is probably one of the least liked content things you have done. Like, you have Doom Tower up here. People love Doom Tower. People do not like Hydra because it's very hard to automate. It's very RNG heavy. It takes insane stats, insane builds. And it's not something you can consistently, until you get very, very, very end game, consistently do without having to sit there and manual potentially for an hour to 2 hours. That is not fun. And when you have a game mode like this, that only 3 clans actually get a reward every week, and it's important for PvP and arena, that's what you're stuck doing in many cases. You're stuck sitting there manualing Hydra content that nobody likes. You want to talk about burning out your player base and pissing them off? This mode is doing it. And that's not even taking into account that you have nerfed 2 champions that are rares. We're not even talking about like nerfing Taurus and Marichka, which you've refused to do for a year and should have been done a long time ago to save arena. We're talking about just basic rares that people use for clan boss records or stuff like that, when all you had to do was change the way that this was scored. Excuse me, there's a better way to score this. You know what I mean? That you can do it in brackets of amounts, so that somebody doing 70 billion damage, just counts as a top spot set rate of points. You know what I mean? Like, there's better ways to score this to disincentivize people from using broken compositions. Or you could even do it like where first place, gets this much and second place gets this much individually, right? Points wise. So this has just been, I think, an utter failure. It's still not right. It's still not enjoyable. It needs a major, major, major rework. And again, I think it's something that if it's done right, would be maybe a slight net positive, but because it's been done so poorly, it is a massive net negative and a large generator of frustration within the community, negative sentiment, and a desire to leave the game. That is bad. We want to retain people. And keep in mind, all the stuff I'm doing suggestion-wise, this is stuff that I've thought of, stuff the community has said. This is stuff that people are passionate about. You know, we're passionate about this game. We want it to do well. We love the community here. That's why people like Raid. It's the community. We're all in this together, right? Pulling shards like crazy people. So at least make it so that this kind of stuff makes us want to stick in the game, not leave it. All right, we're almost at the end of the list, guys. This is something that I really wish they would do. They've never done it. I don't think they ever will do it, but they've proved they can do it with stuff like Clan Boss. I think the best change that happened this year, and it's hilarious how long they resisted given the fact that many other games do this no problem, but the best change by far was the fact that you can auto Clan Boss. Finally, after years of making people do this and waste 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes on this every day, you can finally auto it. Thank you. That was an amazing change. That was the best change I think you've made in the last 2 or 3 years. No joke. Now it comes with obviously caveats. You have to have one key to before, which is whatever, typical 1 step forward, 2 step back, but at least it's a net win for the community. So my question is this. Look, we've played this game now 2, 3, 4+ years. Dude, super raids is not enough for this stuff, for faction wars. I don't ever want to do a faction war again. I should be able to, at this point, auto all of this. Same thing with Clan Boss. I should be able to auto all of the faction war content without having to wait. Super raids is not far enough, guys. Don't make me waste time in this portion of content. And frankly, I would say the same thing also for Doom Tower battles. When it comes to farming your whatever, if I've done this before, let me auto this stuff. You have the ability, you have the technology. I know that investors care about time spent in the game, I'm sure, but you know what investors care about more? Money spent. Money spent. And the more players you retain by making the game easier to access and more fun to play, the more money you generate, the more your investors are happy. Again, it's just simple stuff like this. This is, might take a little bit of work to do, but it really should happen for faction wars in Doom Tower. Cut down time in the game that is not spent doing what people love. And what do people love in Raid Shadow Legends? Well, they used to love PvP when it wasn't a Taurus Marichka UDK fest. You know what I mean? With lots of stone skin and polymorph. But I digress. They enjoy PvP and they enjoy building really sick teams in PvE. What do they not enjoy doing? Doing the same faction war that they have done for the last 3 years over and over and over and over and over again, when it could be done like that, just like Clan Boss. Okay, we're coming to the end of the list, guys. Let me know, by the way, what you think about all this. If you've stuck around for the whole thing, you're a legend. Let me know that in the comments as well. But I am really passionate about this game, and I do want to see it succeed and stick around for a long time. So this is just stuff that I've thought of, and again, the community has thought of that will make it better. Okay, the last thing on my list, or next to last thing, there's one more thing after this, which is the ultimate most important thing, but just another thing. This is small. We got to improve the Tavern a little bit. This isn't one of the most important things by any stretch of the imagination, but it shouldn't be so tedious to feed champions. It should be like a machine. I'm just clicking endlessly, not 6, not 10, just as many as I want to feed in here until I hit the max. We need to redo this a little bit. This needs to be freshened up, just made a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit faster. Again, I would put this towards the bottom of the list in terms of changes that I think are important to improve the game, but it would be a nice quality of life change. And to be fair to Plarium, there have been a lot of quality of life changes in the Tavern, specifically around potions, which have gotten way better considering what they used to be. I'd love to see the same thing for champions. Just make it easier for us to feed these champs if we're pulling a lot of shards. Okay, those are my top 10. But this one is the most important out of all of them by far. It's a bonus one. But again, it's the number one thing without a doubt. And that is to listen. Listen to your community feedback. Listen to your content creators who are acting as the mouthpiece for that community. Listen, because that is the stuff that keeps the game alive longer and will make you more money in the short term, I honestly think, but also in the long term. There have been so many changes that have been unpopular with Raid over the year. There have been some changes that have been very popular, but I think one of the things that Plarium could really do a better job of is actually implementing the feedback that the community gives. I know you all hear it. I know you see it in content creator chat. I would love to see it actually be implemented. We are all passionate about this game. We love this game. We're probably addicted to this game if we're being completely honest. But we want to see this game do well. And the things that we suggest are designed to make the game better, to make it more user-friendly, more player-friendly, and to ultimately make the game last longer, which again makes you more money. So this whole list that I've compiled here, and God knows this is the longest video I've ever made that's not a live arena video, so I'm really curious to see how it does. But all of this stuff comes from a place of, look, I love this game. I want it to be the best that it can be. And I know that there is a whole nother layer of this game being engaging and fun while still being monetized for business. I get it. You're a business. You got to make money. We all get that. But just stuff like this that would truly change the way people look at Raid. I'm excited for the new content. I really hope that it's a success. And I think it's coming soon. But even outside of that, please genuinely consider some of this stuff and making these improvements and making them in a relatively timely fashion so that you keep more players in the ecosystem, you keep more people in the community, and you keep the game around for a long, long time. All right, guys, that's the whole list. I mean, that's a lot. This was what, a 50-minute video? I don't even know. I'm curious to see. So let me know down in the comments if you agree with what I've said. If you disagree, I don't know how you could disagree with any of this stuff. I think this is all pretty commonly accepted, you know, like, hey, this all will help to improve the game. But if you have other ideas, I'd love to hear them. And my hope is that Plarium will love to hear them as well. And that this feedback can go into making Raid Shadow Legends a better game than it already is, and a much better game in the future, which is how every game should be, getting better consistently and continually over time. So those are my ideas. Let me hear yours. If you watch the whole thing, write something in the comments to let me know. There's no way that most of you did, but if you did, I really appreciate it. So I love you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon. Big Papa Drock out.